guys, push like, subscribe, do that right now so you don't forget. Also, hit that notification bell if you'd like to have notifications when I have a new upload. Welcome back, guys. Also, we are still on the Jones case, and we're trying to figure out who is Michael Wayne Jones Jr. And we also really are having trouble trying to figure out, did he become a monster overnight? Well, first we need to learn a little bit of background on this guy. Okay, so who is Michael Wayne Jones Jr.? Well, right now we're still kind of putting that story together. It's really hard to get information on him. We do know that he is from the Vermont area, him and Sarah Jones, his wife at that time. Sarah, for some reason that we're not sure right now, end up moving to Florida. So they end up working in the Leesburg area. And as we know, that most of their story is in Ocala, Florida. Casey Jones, well, at the time, she was Casey Bowers. She was married to a man named Richard Bowers, and they had 2 boys together. They had Cameron and Preston. And we knew that from what we know right now, actually, Sarah Jones and Michael Jones had 3 children together. They all worked at a place, and it's about 2014. They worked for a veterinarian clinic called Mount Dora Animal Hospital. The owners, the Delaportes, had employed Sarah and Michael before Casey Bowers actually come into the picture. And around 2014, Casey Bowers was hired by the Delaportes because they thought she was just this really sweet, nice person. Casey Delaporte, which is the wife of the veterinarian doctor there, says that she really kind of had a connection with Casey Bowers is because she said that she was Amish. But we're finding out that that's probably not even true. According to Casey Delaporte, she said that the employees and the employers loved Casey Jones. They also really loved Mike Jones. And they tell us that Mike Jones was the type of guy that if an older woman was to pull up to the hospital, he would rush out to her car, help her get her pet into the animal hospital without even having to be asked. The Delaportes say that Mike Jones was the type of guy that, they just loved. They trusted him with their kids. Their kids even considered him an uncle. But later on, things began to change. So about a year after Casey Bowers was working at this veterinarian clinic, she worked as a tech, and she dealt with the kennels and things like that. Michael was mostly a tech. But the Delaportes said they started noticing something really strange. They noticed that in 2015 that there seemed to be an affair starting to brew up between Casey Bowers and Mike Jones. They said they kind of suspected that Mike was hanging out at the kennel, and that really wasn't his area to work. That was Casey's area. So they started to suspect that there was an affair brewing between the two. They also noticed that Mike's personality and character began to change. And it was around March that Mr. Delaporte found out that, in fact, Casey Bowers and Michael Jones were having an affair. And at some point, Mr. Delaporte said that he started to realize that Michael was a liar. And his wife, Casey Delaporte, had this story that she shared with massacre talk. So Mike Jones decides to tell Casey Delaporte that his mother died. He told her that she had walked out into a snowstorm when she was drunk and died. Well, the Delaportes felt really bad about that. They knew that he had a hard background. He had opened up to them a little bit, and they offered to help him out. They gave him some money to help him get to Vermont. And the reason why he needed to go there was he told them that he needed to go get his mother's ashes. Casey Delaporte says she tried to talk him out of going, but he insisted on going. But, they find out, which we'll talk about in a second. Maybe this story didn't add up so well. The Delaportes say that Michael Jones started to complain an awful lot about Sarah Jones, his wife, and that, he wasn't happy with her anymore and that she was being mean to him. It's not long, and Mike actually tells him, things aren't working out between me and Sarah Jones, and they ended up splitting up. So Mr. Delaporte said that, him and Mike Jones kind of hung out a lot, and they talked a bit, and he seemed to be a good person. He really didn't suspect that Mike was a liar or a manipulator at the time. He said that Mike Jones actually confided in him that he was having an affair with Casey Bowers, and still he didn't think anything was that wrong. But as time went on and his relationship built with Casey Bowers, Mike Jones really started to change even more. The Delaportes said that they actually find out that Mike had actually made sexual advances at other female workers at their hospital. According to the Delaportes, they say that they're not really that involved with the personal problems or drama, but, I don't know, because there comes a point where Mike mentions that he wants to, he doesn't want to be with Casey Bowers anymore. She's a married woman. He's a married man. This is about June of 2014, I believe. He said it was. And Mike said he didn't want nothing to do with Sarah or Casey. The Delaportes actually invite him to live with them for a bit. It wasn't that long ago that Mike actually was living with another friend but didn't pay any rent, so he ended up moving out of there. So while he was staying at the Delaportes' home, they actually helped him buy a car. At some point, Mike had the Delaportes said Mike kind of said something weird that seemed to kind of be setting Casey Bowers up for something that might happen in the future, but they didn't see it then. It wasn't until all this was all over that they seen it. I guess the two were working late at the veterinarian hospital late at night, and he was working the kennel, he said, and she was near the safety deposit box. Well, shortly after Mike moved in with the Delaportes, Casey, what they're saying, I think they were saying, was Casey Bowers realized that Michael Jones had broken up with her, and she called Casey Delaporte crying and upset, telling her that she really loved her job because she had been fired due to money being stolen from the clinic. She also told them some really shocking information. So Casey told Casey Delaporte, you don't know Mike Jones. He is not the man you think he is. His mom never died, and he was never in the Navy. So now Casey Bowers lost her job because Mike told the Delaportes that she was stealing money from the veterinarian clinic. And then he broke up with Casey Bowers right after all that. So here you have the early signs of a scheming, manipulative, heartless mind. Well, Casey Delaporte said, she talked to her husband about the situation and the accusations that Casey Bowers had against Mike. And her husband tells her, you're going to have to take care of this. And well, that's what she does. She says she walks into a room, I can't remember which room it was, where she found Michael Jones playing with her kids. And she asks Michael, she says, your mother is still alive, right? He just stares at her basically and doesn't say a word, and she tells him to get out of my house. It's at that point that Michael doesn't say a word, walks past her out the door, slamming it behind him, and goes to the veterinarian clinic. Once he arrives at the hospital, he steals a gun, money, and medication and takes off. Nobody sees him for a while. The next day, Casey Bowers and an employee walk in to go to work the next morning, and they realize that the place was robbed. They alert the Delaportes and they alert the authorities, and then I guess they put out a warrant for the arrest of Michael Jones. The Delaportes actually talked to him a few times after he did that and said at one point that he would turn himself in. They believe that he was in Vermont back with Sarah Jones and their kids. Casey Jones was crying and really upset, saying that she didn't know what was going on and how much she loved her job. They rehired Casey Jones back, of course, and I'm not sure how they find out. I can't remember, but at some point, Michael Jones is in New Mexico. The Delaportes ask Casey Bowers, has she seen Michael Jones? Casey says, no, and I don't want to hear from him. It's not too long afterwards that a friend of I'm sorry guys, these names are getting me mixed up. Casey Bowers calls the Delaportes and said, look, I know that Casey Bowers knows where Michael is because she sent money to him, Western Union, to help him get back to Florida. Casey Delaporte says that they noticed that Casey come into work one day wearing Michael's shirt underneath her attire. Also, shortly after that, the Delaportes find out and they get a tip that Casey Bowers at the time is living in a guest house, they believe, of another employee, if I can spit it out, employer that she's working for, and that Mike is also staying there with her. And they actually go to a spot where somebody give them a tip. It was a tattoo parlor. They find out that Casey Bowers is getting a tattoo, and who is with her? Mike Jones, and he's holding her hand. They say, of course, he gets busted that day, and they also find out that he has the car in the parking lot. And inside that car, they find all the evidence they needed to prove that he had robbed the veterinarian clinic. In fact, they learned something new. They find out that he had actually stolen medication because they didn't realize he had stolen the medication earlier. They didn't notice it until they, went through his car and they found it. Which is odd because later on in the story, if you know this story already, you know that he likes to hide his evidence in the car. He doesn't. It's just weird. He's just a creature of habit. What we're hearing is how now, I don't know how much this is true. I haven't seen the text messages, but they say Casey Bowers had actually been in contact with Mike Jones And she had actually even texted him as her own employer, sending Mike a message that she was sick in the hospital, in a coma with tubes, and she was pregnant. Just a long story short. But we don't know how much of this is true. This is what we're hearing right now. So somehow, after he gets arrested and gets in trouble, they get back together. Actually, Casey Bowers divorces Richard Bowers, and Mike Jones divorces Sarah Jones. They get married on Halloween 2017 and become Mr. and Mrs. Mike Jones. Now, people are giving hints that there might be a major something in Mike Jones' background that caused him to have post-traumatic syndrome. But no matter what, guys, I don't care. Post-traumatic syndrome is no excuse for anybody to kill anyone. So we know that Michael Jones and Casey Jones live in Leesburg, Florida for a period of time. We also know that in the past that Michael Jones manipulates everybody, and he kind of bounces back and forth between Sarah Jones and Casey Bowers Jones. It's a short time later that Casey Jones ends up getting pregnant with Morcalli, and then shortly after Morcalli, Ayanna. Right now, the Jones family has two boys, the two Bower boys, which is Cameron and Preston, then Morcalli and Ayanna. Now, in April, Sarah Jones announces that she's moving back to Jacksonville, Florida. She's doing it for work reasons. We also know that Sarah Jones' kids stay with Mike Jones and Casey Jones off and on a couple of times while she makes that change. And she's moving from Vermont to Jacksonville, Florida. Meanwhile, Mike is definitely manipulating Casey, I believe. I mean, I really believe that he manipulated her because he knew she loved him with everything she had. Sarah, on the other hand, I'm not quite certain why she allowed him to come back. I guess she loved him as well. Regardless, Casey Jones and Michael Jones did get married. They move into this home in Leesburg. They now are moving back towards Summerfield. And they live in a mobile home for a period. Well, actually, until the end. Now, I want to mention to you guys that I will not be going over the timeline like I have before because I already have that on video. You are more than welcome to go back and check out the video before this one. It should have what you're looking for there. We are going to have a bit of a timeline here. It's just not as detailed as the other. So, we know now that Sarah Jones is in Jacksonville, Florida, living with her 3 children that she had with Michael. We also know that Casey Jones has been married to Michael for a time now. And they hit financial hard times because Casey Jones ends up having back surgery, so she's sick for a bit. She's down for a bit, and she just had Ayanna not that long ago. So Michael's the breadwinner of the family right now. And I want to mention this because a lot of people are saying, what was his motive? And I believe that finances was his motive. He knows Sarah Jones has got a job and she's working in Jacksonville. Now we're going to skip along a little bit, guys. Casey Jones puts out videos of her children, and it's very evident that she loves her children and Michael Jones more than anything in this world. But on July 10th, we are hearing rumors. Now, this isn't positive information yet. We don't have affidavits. We do not have any court records or anything. But according to rumor, neighbors said that they heard Casey and Michael get in an argument July 10th. And it seems to match up with what Michael says. According to Michael, Casey come at him with a bat. He took that bat away from Casey and he swung it, killed her. 2 days later, he strangled the 2 boys, which were his stepchildren. And for a while, he kept the 2 girls alive. He took them to Nikki Jones, the grandmother's home, for a little while. I think they stayed until Ayana's birthday, which was almost 2 weeks, or right at 2 weeks. And Nikki Jones was concerned that it was Ayana's birthday, and Casey Jones hasn't said anything. So she says that Michael texted acting like Casey, saying Michael was coming to pick up the kids, and he did. He picked up the kids and took them back home with him. What they're guessing is sometime after he picked up those kids, which is a week or 2 later, he drowned the 2 girls. But I forgot to mention, on July 10th, Casey Jones was in contact with Michael Jones' brother Ryan. She had texted him and had concerns about a message that she found in Michael's phone, which was named Best Friend Joe in Vermont. A lot of people believe that best friend Joe in Vermont is most likely Sarah Jones, and I guess we will find out as this case unfolds. So Michael Jones, we hear rumors that he took the girls to Sarah Jones, while they were alive for a period, and we're not exactly sure about that right now. What we are sure about is she says that Michael Jones, Hurricane Dorian was coming in. She'd never been through a hurricane before. Michael was coming to stay with her, and he stayed on and off for about 2 weeks, the first part of September of 2019. He drove the white van up there. And according to affidavits and the police, Michael Jones had his entire family deceased in that van and was driving them everywhere he went. Meaning he took the van up. If he went to Georgia, he took the van with him. He parked the van at Sarah Jones. For some reason, she did not notice any type of foul odor or anything, but one of her children did. Guys, I'm going to have to do a part 2 on this one. I'm sorry. But anyways, the family realized that Casey Jones was not acting right. She wasn't responding to her family. So her family called the police and said that they had some concerns. Would they go check on her? When the police arrived, the landlord let the police come in. And this is September 14th. And 15th, we're dealing with this. People are trying to locate Sarah Jones at this point, trying to see if she'd seen Michael Jones, because nobody had seen Michael Jones either. Police contact Sarah Jones by phone. They try to reach her several times. They try to reach her on the it was really late. She got off at September 14th at 12. She had a phone call from detectives the 15th of September, really early morning. And she says she returned their call later that morning, and then she talked to them several times that day, and that's how she found out that Casey and her kids were missing. Some of Sarah Jones' story really doesn't add up, and like I said, you can refer to my older videos to hear the details on that. But she basically writes Ryan, Mike's brother, and tells him that she's seen all of them Friday, including Michael, and they were fine, which was a complete lie. But it's hard to know if it was Sarah Jones that wrote that text or if it was Michael, because Ryan says at some of his interview that he believed Michael was texting off of Sarah Jones' phone. Again, we cannot be sure because we do not have affidavits with the entire details, because the sheriff's department is really protecting this case, because Sheriff Wood says that he doesn't want any holes, in the case. He doesn't want to, mess this case up. He wants to make sure that Michael Jones pays for what he did. So sometime September 15th, he leaves Sarah Jones' apartment in the white van with his family in the van and drives up to Brantley, Georgia, which is approximately about an hour to hour 15 minutes, give or take, where he gets in a small accident. We hear several different things, but he was in a small accident, and he tells the police, you might as well handcuff me because my wife's body is in the vehicle. They say that the cops smelt a foul odor of decomposition, and they did handcuff him and arrest him. From there, Michael confessed and then led police to a wooded area in Charleston, I believe, Georgia, off 301 in a wooded area, to the 4 children. And a lot of people are trying to figure out, why in the world did he not drop his wife off with the children? Why did he separate them? And that is something I hope, detectives and investigators look into closely. And a lot of people have a few speculations as to why. They thought perhaps maybe they were going to take the van and he was going to dump it with this white body in it to make it appear that she killed herself and maybe the children. That's just speculation, nowhere near the truth, but that's what people are talking about. They're just trying to figure out why he's doing what he's doing. Anyways, the investigators collect the bodies, take them to the examiners, and Michael is arrested. And a few days later, he's brought back to Marion County, Florida. So Michael didn't really have all his charges until recently. So now he has 4 first-degree murder and 1 second-degree, which on part 2, we're going to go on more details on that. On part 2, we're also going to go over the interview with Nikki Jones, the grandmother. So as I was making this video, I was checking my Facebook and I noticed that Brandy Lynn, which is Casey Jones' sister, a really beautiful girl, I think, and she posted an update along with Nikki, she did as well, saying that finally the babies have come home. And she shared these pictures. I asked her if I was allowed to share this, and she said, that's fine. I like to ask permission for certain things. There's just some things you have to respect. So I am very happy for that family right now. They're seeing some closure of some sort right now, and that makes me happy. Okay, guys, I hit my limit, and I'm going to have to do a part 2, and it's going to be pretty long. I want to say thank you so much for watching, and I want to send out my love and blessings to this family. All right, guys, I guess I'll be busy tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to get that Savannah Spurlock out as quick as I want it to. All right, guys, see you soon.